So let's go over these subjects really quickly.
Yeah.
And I want to start, I'm going to kind of bounce around, but these are the subjects we're going to talk about. What I loved about what Anna presented today is that it is our job, and this is part of the personal responsibility talk, whether you're on a team or not, or working individually, that you must know the industry you're in. You've got to do it. For 14 years when I was at Keller Williams, I withstood Mo Anderson doing this cheer. Mo Anderson was for many years while I was at Keller Williams the chairman of the board. No, she wasn't chairman of the board. She was the CEO. And she would say she would make everybody stand up and say, and go through this chant of being to be enthusiastic, you have to act enthusiastic. And that's part of it. When I used to get a lot of listings, I would talk to other agents about what it was, and they'd say, well, what are the clients saying? So a couple of things that you have to understand about how you show up to a client. Your confidence matters more than anything, even if it's faked confidence. All right? I had to learn that when I was new in the business. It was one of the things my uncles taught me. But here's why I say that. When I was doing really good at taking listings, when people would call me and say, Rick, we chose someone else, thanks very much, I would call them and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, thank you for letting me know. I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure it wasn't easy to make the decision, and I'm sure you made the decision that was best for you. Given that I've been in real estate for 20 or whatever years at the time, I'm always learning. I was wondering, could you share with me that if I'd had the opportunity to work with you again, what would I have needed to do differently such that you would have hired me? Right? So that's the question. Now, when people would call me and say, hey, Rick, we hired you. We picked you out of all those agents we interviewed. I do the same thing. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, thanks so much for picking me. What was it about me so that I can continue to learn to be better that had you choose me over the other agents, specifically if you don't mind? Because once you have a strength that people are going to hire you for, you want to repeat that strength. Once you know the weaknesses, then you know you want to learn to somehow overcome those weaknesses so that you can become the kind of agent they want. We don't do that as much with buyers, but I don't know why we don't do it. And I'll tell you, going back when I used to work with a lot of buyers, the first company I went with outside of my uncle's company would send surveys out to every closed buyer. And I was the manager of the office. So, I mean, I was just another agent when it came to doing a transaction. So the surveys would come out, oh my God, we don't like asking buyers how we did because we don't want to hear the answer. All right? So all of us have an obligation to improve of ourselves constantly, and it is going to be vital that when you are closing a transaction with a buyer, and there are lots of opportunities from the minute you meet a buyer, and same with me with sellers. I haven't been doing it effectively, so this talk is for me too, to along the way say, what could I be doing differently that would make me a better real estate agent to you? Okay? Remember, we're asking about them. This person here might think you're a better real estate agent if you leave them the freak alone. I can remember Marissa and I signed a listing for an older couple in San Jose, and they were kind of techie for a couple of their age. And I said, okay, when it's the offer date, we'll, I was feeling bad. I didn't really want to do this, but I thought I'll collect all the offers and I'll come over to your house and we'll sit down and talk. And they're like, really? Isn't there something we could do that's a little easier than you coming back to our house? And I'm like, well, I have this thing called Zoom. And they're like, we love Zoom. Why don't we just do Zoom? I'm like, who are you people? Right? So we don't know what they want for them until we do. I always like to use this line, but there was an old movie that starred Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan. It was called The City of Angels.
Love that movie.
You what?
I absolutely love that movie.
So there's one line in that movie that I really love, and I don't know if you know the context, but he was an angel and asked God to become a human so he could fall in love with Meg Ryan. And so he saw her eating a pear, and he said, how's that pear taste? And she started to answer, and he said, no, I know how a pear tastes. I want to know how that pear tastes to you. Right? Which is a different angle, okay? There's a book called The Platinum Rule, and I've talked about this book so many times in my career, and I was introduced to it in 1996, the year it was written. And the platinum rule says that the golden rule is dead and archaic, which is, everybody know the golden rule? Who wants to say it?
Treat everybody how you want to be treated.
Like you want to be treated, right. But the platinum rule takes that to another level and says, no, don't treat people like you want to be treated. Treat people like they want to be treated. Okay, so the platinum rule is an entire booklet on how you can understand how to best find out how people want to be treated. I can't say enough about this right now at the beginning of the year. I was talking, and all this talk came out of me meeting with a young agent who's not young in age, but young and hasn't been in the business very long this morning in Vallejo. And the guy's enthusiasm was everything. And he said, well, how do you decide if an agent on your team is doing a good job? And I said, it's that they have to learn to be a mini-me. I said, when we pass off a client to another agent on our team, that client is expecting the Rick Geha team service, and the only way the agents can know what that is if I've taught them what I consider to be good service, which may be different than some other team teaches their agents. Do you see that? And one of the reasons we partnered is she shines where I'm weak. And I like to think I shine where she's weak, but she has no weaknesses. So the point I'm saying is that if we're not asking the people specifically, even if it's the most difficult thing in the world to hear their answer, if we're not hearing them say, well, you know, you said you'd call me on a Tuesday at 4 and you called me at Tuesday at 5. Well, now I know I've got one of those people who keeps track of everything you say. You know, there's all kinds of personalities. Again, the reason why you should read the book, The Platinum Rule, talks all about that, how to start determining that. So there's all of that foundational piece that there is on the National Association of Realtors website. Every year they post something called the National Association of Realtors, and then they put the year. I think the latest one there is the 2018 Profile Survey of Buyers and Sellers. Anna, when you were back at Metro Cities, Metro Cities used to promote that. They do it every year, and they ask the buyers and sellers questions about what they're looking for in their realtors. And I haven't seen the one from 2018 or 19, and I used to look at it all the time. I haven't thankfully looked at it in years. But if you go to nar.realtor.org, you can see it. Go under resources or search for the profile of buyers and sellers. And what you'll find out is that what consumers are asking for with their real estate agent, both buyers and sellers, that 60% of what they're asking for has nothing to do with the real estate license. It says, treat me nice, be honest, be fair, be kind, like those kinds of things. Be patient. You don't need a real estate license to be any of those things, do you? So the most important thing that I could think of to tell you is that foundationally, we have to start talking to more people. When I say that, generally I'm talking about more people that are not currently doing real estate business with us, right? But at the same time, we have to be more talkative with the people that we are engaged with, and along every step of the way. Now, again, we are not doing that right now. Gina, Jennifer, and Denise are all sitting right here, so we are going to start to incorporate ways, we've got to, so that we're checking in with our people. If we're checking in with them and they say, no, you're doing incredible, even if we're not even to the point where we've removed the contingencies yet, what a great opportunity to ask for a referral. And simply by saying, great, who else do you know that would like to be treated this way, that could use our intelligence, our knowledge, and our service? Simple as that. And we're not doing enough of that. I'm certainly not, and I am a reflection of my own team. So that means we are not as a whole. So I want to be doing more of that. I want to focus more on drawing business from where we're already getting business. When I talk to agents all over the country, for whatever reason, not coaching clients, and they say, I go, what do you do? I got nothing. I got one listing. Great, let's work on that one listing. I can show you how to get more business from that. And I think about that. I go, am I doing that with all mine? No, I'm not. So there's a lot to be said about that foundational thing. But the confidence to do that, in most cases, has to be faked. So it's important that you decide what's it going to take for you to bust through that, whatever it is. Like you might be in a position where you go, gosh, I'm afraid if they say that, I'll get this answer. That's okay. Let's get that answer. Let's get the truth right between the eyes and work with it and decide what we've got to do so that we'll never hear that answer again. All right? If you all think about it, like, Sherry, Tiffany, Elizabeth, if I just look at the three of you, you guys have done tons of transactions between the three of you, right? I mean, let's look at your first transaction in what town was that? Fairfield or the very first one?
Yeah.
Davis?
Fairfield.
Okay, didn't you do one in Davis? Thought you
I
did
did one in Davis too.
Yeah.
I'm all
So-
over the world.
Right. So if you think about that first one, right? That was about a year and a half ago, 2 years. When was the last time you talked to them?
Well, like Christmas, holidays.
Okay, good. So you did talk to that couple.
Mhm.
Good. Good for you.
On the phone or via email?
Email.
Okay.
There you go.
That's not really a conversation last I checked. All right.
Well, they
So-
work like odd hours, so it was always through email or texting anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So notice that we've got personal responsibilities and confidence in here. And I got to tell you, the more confidence you have, the more you take personal responsibility for actions. Like things do, this is something I really want you to take away, is things don't happen to you, they happen for you. Okay? They happen in your life, but you decide that they are for a reason so that you could learn or be educated or you'll be more expectant of that situation in the future. It leads you to a bigger, better journey, I promise you that. So the main things that are going to happen now is, the reason I wanted to talk about the confidence is open houses and your success there. I can't even tell you how many people have told me in the last 2 weeks, well, I do a lot of open houses and I meet a lot of people, but they're all represented. Yes, because your open houses are different than Marissa's or than Tiffany's, where they always walk away with a lead. How is that? It's not about that they're always represented. You come across as somebody that they want to say, I'm represented, keep your distance, you know. If you're coming across that way, that's your bad, not theirs, right? So when someone tells me, oh, I have an agent, I go, great, could you tell me their name and I'll call them and let them know that I met you here, because they may need to know some things about the property that I can share with them so that they can be a better realtor to you. Right? Could you say that? Yeah. And they might say, oh no, I'd rather not share. Well, that could mean that they don't want to share, which is, but what do we think? We think they're lying. They must not have one if they don't want to share. No, it could be they just, you know, they're just private people and it's none of your damn business, right? But there's several things about how to treat open houses. There's no one right way, right? I would not look at a person, I think all of you know who Marissa is. She does not like people for the most part, right? And she was supposed to be here. I'd be saying this if she was here. She does not like people for the most part. She's a nurse, a critical care unit nurse, right? Somehow she magically has this bedside manner that makes people just want to spill their guts to her. Here's my name, my phone number, my mother's maiden name, my social security number. What else do you need? Maybe because she's so small, they can't think that do any damage or
And I
anything.
think it's like if you show them you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you ask them a question and you're like paying attention to other things.
Me, pretty much all the time, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But
She also has
that's,
a captive audience with bad hearts.
oh yeah, that's right. But she is a really good listener.
Yeah.
Like I remember we had, you remember Dicey? She walks out of there, she's texting her back within a half hour saying, loved meeting. Instead of your two cats, which is what I would have said, she knew the names of the cats.
She still refers to the cat.
And she still, when
In the
we
text
get
message.
texts for the fruit she received. So all I'm saying is there's no one right way. There's lots of right ways. Whatever it takes to win somebody over. And remember what I just said about the platinum rule, which we'll go back, is once I've read that and I understand people want to be treated the way they want to be treated, that could be a distance, right? I love when, come around here, Cindy, real quick. When I go to shake hands with somebody that maybe I know or they've met me before and they know I might be a hugger, they'll do this. What's that signal to me? Don't freaking touch me. Yeah, the handshake's okay, but no more than that. So picking up signals and being aware. Now that, on the other hand, is something I'm really good at. That's a gift I feel I got, that I can notice people's energy a little bit, see the difference. Like I would never, if somebody did that and pushed my hand back out, ever decide to crowd that space, right? So there's a lot of that. But your confidence when people come in, I've practiced with this. I'm standing near the kitchen table and the flyers are right next to me. I swear I notice that people look at the flyers, look at me. Do I want to go over there and get that flyer, right? So then, I remember doing an open house with Marissa once many years ago, and I was not feeling well. I had a little bit of a cold, But I was there, it was cold out, we had to keep the door open, I had my big black coat on, and we put the flyers, the house was vacant, they didn't even want us to stage it, the people who owned it. They said, we don't want other people's furniture in our parents' house because the parents had died and everything. So we put the flyer holder on the fireplace. So when they'd come in, I'd go, hi, welcome to the open house. The flyers are right over there on the fireplace. They would immediately head towards the fireplace, and I'd say, before you get started, let me tell you a little bit about the house and the neighborhood, and then take the tour, and if you need us for anything, we'll be right here. Okay, I was only at the open house because it was our first one. It was a neighborhood I knew very well from Fremont. That's all right.
We're just doing maintenance on the AC.
Oh, okay. Ours is not working. No. It's heating very well, though, I can tell you that. So the people would instantly go there, and then we were having so many people come in, I'd say, if I can get you all to stop for a minute, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the neighborhood, a little bit about the house, and then feel free to look around. Marissa, my partner, is right there in the kitchen. She'll be glad to help you with all the information on the house you might need, like the disclosures. And then I would pass them off. We can't always do that, but you can say that about yourself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the house and the neighborhood, and then I'm going to let you go. If you need anything, I'll be right here before you leave. Do you get that? Like, let them be. Being confident. Do you have to ask them if they're represented by a realtor? No. Other people are using this new question now. Like, in the other homes you've been seeing, how are you getting into them? That's a nice roundabout way of saying, do you have a realtor? Like, is somebody opening it with you with a lockbox? Are you sneaking in at night when no one's looking? How are you getting into the houses? So there's lots of ways to do that. So I had one of my coaching clients, and I've shared some of this with you before, but I had some of my coaching clients go, this is a big team that does $1 million in commissions in Denver, Colorado. He's got 4 buyer's agents, and all the buyer's agents are complaining to him, and he's complaining to me that, oh, we do all these open houses, but we get all these people that are represented. Okay? So a couple of things we suggested to them. We said, take a lender with you. See if you can find a lender that would be willing to hold an open house with you. Why would we do that? Because sometimes they don't want to talk to the realtor. A lender is not as off-putting as a realtor. They might say, oh, you know, are you working with a real estate agent and a lender? Because we have a lender here just to answer your questions for you. Don't feel like you have to take, use them or whatever, help yourself, whatever. But sometimes they'll do that. When in 1991, I suddenly had a lot of listings, and everybody wanted open houses, and I didn't have a brave enough way or a script to say, no, I'm not doing open houses, I can't do that many myself. So I started hiring women that I knew that were married that had become kind of football widows. On Sunday, their husbands wanted to watch the Raider 49er game. And I was paying them, this is in 1991, $35 to do an open house. Their ability to bring back the papers filled out with people's name, address, and phone number. By the way, this is pre-email. Okay, if you can remember back that far, this is pre-email. They would bring back every name, address, and phone number. It was crazy. And they had a little deal. None of these girls were licensed. We had to call the Department of Real Estate. We got to see that, yes, you can have somebody hold an open house as long as they're a hostess, meaning just watching over the home, passing out the flyers, not quoting interest rates or prices. We did such a great job. Every time they bring them back to me, we'd put their name on the lead sheets, and if I got an appointment with those people, they got an additional $25, and if I had a closing, they'd get an additional $200. And so it worked out. These people did open houses for me for a couple of years on and off. And I had 6 or 7 of them. Today one of them is a Redfin listing agent. She does amazingly well. So the reason I say that is when you get less attached, you get more names and numbers. All right? For instance, what do we have on all of our listings that a lot of listings don't, but most do? Anyone? A disclosure link with tons of information in it, right? If I can get your email address, I'll forward you the link. We can also text them the link now, can't we? Right? As long as you have the link. So I don't care what I get. I'd like to get cell phone, email address, name, and personal physical address, but I don't. So if I can get a cell phone, I'm super happy. So Marissa says no. Marissa's attitude is no. If they've got a realtor, let him get them the disclosures. No. If I can get their phone number and text them that, guess what I can do at the end of the open house? I can walk around the house and do a quick video directly to them and send it right to their cell phone. Right? Even if they say they're represented, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just saying, hey, You were at the open house, I texted you the disclosures. As I was walking through the house closing up, I wanted to make sure that I reminded you these things about the house and about this neighborhood. And then at the end, I might say, oh, by the way, other prices, other homes priced at this price in Fremont are available in these areas and these areas. You might do something else to show them your level of knowledge. But boy, you gotta be confident. And I mean, I don't give a crap, and nor should you, how you look in that video. Right? I mean, don't shine it up under your nose or anything like that, but it's not about you, it's about what you're saying and what you're communicating to them, okay? So the reason I wanted to bring up open houses is, more than anything, this agent I was talking to today said that they tell him not to do open houses for other brokerages' listings, and he said, the company he's with, and I said, that's kind of a lot of people's rule now, it's not unusual. I said, I'm kind of the I'd rather get forgiveness than permission guy, and he goes, so am I. He goes, I don't want to lose a chance at an open house just because of some damn E&O insurance rule. And I go, okay, well, good for you. I mean, I can't really tell you, I'm not your broker. And I said, I'm not a broker. I said, but I can tell you this, open houses work. And open houses work as long as you decide they have. Like, we had a little joke, her and I, one time. She'd gone to several open houses in a row and walked out, oh God, this is a waste of time. And I said, well, she called me about this one open house I begged her to do, and I said, just go in there with the expectation that you're going to walk out with a client. Sure enough, she goes, it was so cool, I walked out with a client, right? Like, a lot of it's you, with all due respect. So let's make sure
It is
that.
about your attitude. It's
Yeah.
totally about your attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I got 3 leads today at my broker's store.
not at a broker's
Congratulations.
store.
At my
Good for
broker's
you.
store,
Good for you.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Literally, like, one has an investment property, wants to buy another. One is thinking of selling, so I told her I'd give her my handyman resource list, and that's why she gave me her info. And then
Right.
she's like, "You're my realtor now because the other one doesn't do real estate anymore." And then the other one was a neighbor behind, and she was going on a walk, and she's renting, but she's been looking to buy, and she doesn't have an agent.
Nice.
So it's just like finding the little things to start a conversation.
That's, Tiffany, I want to kiss you. That's amazing.
Thank
I
you.
meant on the forehead, appropriately. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the confidence level, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what goes with the confidence and personal responsibility has a lot to do with how everything works out. We've been interviewing, and I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Ask people when they come in, hi, thanks so much for coming in. Before you grab the flyer, just want to ask you one question. How is it that you got to the open house today? And I don't mean by your car. Right? There's a reason why we want to know that. Consumers are still, a lot of them, thinking about the old days when we had to put out 15, 20 signs. You only have 3 signs out? Yeah. What I'm noticing, Marissa's been doing it a little
They
bit.
have none out.
Marissa's been doing it a little bit, and I've been talking to the other agents. It's seeming like it's about 90% or more that are saying, I saw it on Zillow, Redfin, an open house site, and I just put it in my calendar and my Waze or my nav system and I came. So you could have no signs, would it stop them from getting there? No, it wouldn't, if that's how they got there. So if they say, oh, I used Waze or I saw it on Zillow, and then I say, were the signs helpful at all? I'm not trying to eliminate signs because I still believe they serve a purpose. Signs are kind of like the candy bars at the register when you're checking out. You don't have candy bars on your shopping list, but you get to the register and there they are, or gum, and you grab it. It's a second thought. So signs serve the same purpose for that guy that's driving around during the day, doesn't have open houses on his list, right? Casey and I go to lots of open houses, and we have never, ever, we've been together 11 years, planned to go to an open house. We stopped because of signs. Okay? So it was the only reason we found that we've only made an offer on one house in 6 years. And it was the only reason we found that house was we saw signs. Okay? So I want to know more information. You should want to know, right? You should want to be good enough so that when someone comes in and saying, oh, I saw your sign was down, you might, just to make conversation, you might say, oh my gosh, in the old days I would have went screaming out the door trying to go fix that sign. But since today we know that 94% of all people are coming in to open houses off of the Zillow ads or whatever, I don't worry about it as much. I'll pick it up when I leave. Like, saying something like that expresses your confidence and your knowledge of your industry. I am always, that's the one thing I'm still good at, is looking for opportunities where people ask me a question and I can answer it such that they go, why is he not my realtor? Do you get that? Denise got a lead. We were going to try to talk to her together. It worked out I talked to her alone. And that was what won her over, was letting her understand that, that selling a home's complicated. It doesn't matter that you've been on the market twice with your mother-in-law who sucks as a real estate agent, which is what I found out from her, right? And when you express how the market is. So that's going to be what I'm moving into, is understanding these buyer's disposition, buyer urgency, market trends all kind of go together. So let me talk a little bit about that. Does anybody want to ask a question? Because I've got a lot inside of me that I got to get out.
Get it all out.
So, you've heard me talk about how dramatically the market has changed. It is your job to watch the market on what, I don't even know if the term is macro or micro, but isn't macro smaller than micro? Micro smaller than macro? On a micro level, meaning neighborhood by neighborhood or town by town. Not read the NAR news or the CAR news, because that doesn't mean anything for Fremont, right? Like if you look at the city of Fremont right now, it has just a few more homes than the city of Hayward for sale, but Fremont's twice as big in population. Twice as big as Hayward, okay? Or around there, I think. So it's important that you know. So what does that mean? Well, people say that, by the way, Fremont, and I've done a lot of research on this, is the largest city in the United States that I have found that more regularly has less than 200 houses for sale in it. Like all the time, all the time. In fact, 200 houses for sale in the city of Fremont is a buyer's market. Like that's just way too many. And you might say, well, that's just weird, that's a huge town, but that's just how it is. Today there's 44 homes for sale, 46 homes for sale in the city of Fremont right now, single family homes. There's 35 for sale in the city of Hayward. So the reason I say that is the more you know that, whether you're working the area or not. So something I discussed with John this morning in my meeting. It was so good. It was a really refreshing conversation because he asked really good questions. And one of the things that came through my head, and I said, gosh, I got to share this with our people, is that you can work in any town in the state of California because your license says you're licensed in the state of California, and it would take you 15, 20 minutes to get educated enough to speak intelligently about that if you would just go look at the MLS, Google a few things about it, maybe find a couple of the school districts, go on the school district sites, things like that. That's all it would take. That's why if you're going to be holding an open house, and it's an area you're not familiar with, but you're holding it open because you want the clients, because it's a $600,000 house and a $600,000 client would be great, then be the smartest person there is in that area about that area at any given time. And that really is your responsibility, and it comes back to that personal responsibility. Check your attitude. Remember, were you guys here at, was it here that I talked about the crap tree? Was anybody, did I do that here? I did it somewhere in a class. But I said you have to remember that this is the open house in here. And out there you got to pretend there's a crap tree right near the entrance. And just before you come in, you take all the crap out of your mind, out of the stuff, and hang it on the tree and leave it in there. Leave it out there so that when you're in here, you're like, it doesn't matter what